Sims have been having babies ever since the first game in the series, but the way babies are born and how they live and grow has changed over the years. In the original Sims game, a baby could only be born in a few ways. The first way to have a baby was for two Sims of opposite genders to interact romantically. Repeatedly kissing would cause a pop-up to appear asking, "Should we have a baby?" to which the player can answer yes or no. If you had the Live and Large expansion pack installed and your sim had the Vibromatic Heart Bed, a play in bed interaction became available, which would prompt the same "should we have a baby" pop-up. Another way to have a baby was via a random phone call Sims could receive, asking if they wanted to adopt a baby. Players could not invoke this phone call, it would just randomly happen, usually around 4 p.m. Either way, a baby arrived immediately after choosing yes, and all surrounding Sims would applaud the arrival of the new child. The baby would appear in a burst of flowers near the player Sim, and the flowers would settle into a bassinet. The placement of the player Sim when introducing a new baby was important, because if the player Sim was too close to a wall, the bassinet might spawn outside, and the bassinet was not movable in build mode or buy mode without the use of the Move Objects cheat. While in the bassinet, the baby isn't really visible, appearing as just a lump in the bedding, but when taken out of the bassinet for feeding or other interactions, the baby would be visible. Babies have no needs other than hunger and will wake up every 6 hours to be fed. Sims can play with the baby, but that action is not required. If a baby is left unattended after several hours of crying, a social worker will call to reprimand the household. If the baby is left unattended a second time, the social worker will show up and take the baby away. There are no genetics in the first Sims game. After being a baby for 72 hours, the baby would grow up into a child with a randomly chosen head and skin tone, and likely wouldn't resemble either of their parents. After aging up to a child, Sims would age no farther on their own. Aging wasn't really a thing in this game, and children were stuck as children forever. That is, until the release of the Making Magic expansion pack, which introduced a magical charm that could age up children into adults. In The Sims 2, options for having a baby were expanded and overhauled. Sims could now try for baby in addition to woohoo. Male Sims can also be impregnated with an alien baby if they are abducted by aliens. Either way, the birthing Sim will become pregnant for 3 days before giving birth to their little bundle of joy in a cutscene. Sims can also adopt a baby, but this time the adoption is entirely player-driven. Instead of receiving a random phone call offering to adopt a baby, Sims can call the adoption agency themselves. Unlike the first Sims game, babies in The Sims 2 are actual Sims, not objects, and they exist separate from their cribs, which need to be bought in buy mode. These babies need to be fed, changed, and taken care of. They also have relationships with other Sims, such as their parents, and social interactions can be performed to increase these relationships. But despite being actual Sims, babies in The Sims 2 are not playable. They will have an icon like other household members, but they're not selectable. Instead, players can use the background color of the baby's icon to determine their mood and their needs. You know, red equals bad, green equals good. The change diaper interaction will only be available when the baby's diaper needs to be changed. Diaper changes can be done by clicking on either the baby or a changing table, but a changing table is the preferred method as it provides a larger boost to the baby's hygiene and automatically disposes of the soiled diaper. Babies also need to be bathed, which can be done from a sink. Feeding a baby in The Sims 2 is more complicated than the first game. You won't find an option to feed the baby by clicking on the baby. Instead, players need to click on the refrigerator to get a bottle. The baby will drink until full or until the bottle is empty, whichever happens first. Unfinished bottles can be stored in the player Sim's inventory for the baby to finish later. Babies don't move around on their own in The Sims 2. Instead, they need to be carried everywhere and will lay wherever they've been placed. Being placed on the floor or the ground does not harm the baby, and other Sims and pets will route around the baby or step over them, but they get their best sleep in a crib and recover energy faster when sleeping in a crib. Babies who are sleeping in a crib can also be tucked in. All human babies in The Sims 2 have the same facial features, while babies from alien abduction all share the same alien face, but can inherit their parents' skin tone, eye color, and hair color for their eyebrows. Babies can collect memories, but are too young to have aspirations, wants, or fears. Babies are also unable to leave the home lot unless they are being removed by a social worker for neglect. The social worker would arrive to remove a baby if their hunger or social motive dropped too low. They would also remove babies who were left home alone or orphaned due to the player Sim dying. If a social worker worker comes for one child, they would remove all children from the household, not just the child whose needs expired. Teen and adult Sims have some annoying autonomy around babies. They autonomously react to the baby's needs, but they're often wrong about what need the baby is crying about. For example, a baby may cry because they need their diaper changed, and Sims will respond by trying to feed the baby. So it's important for players to actively participate in raising their Sims babies to avoid a visit from the social worker. Children taken by the social worker can be adopted by other families. They will still appear in the family tree of their birth family, but will have no memories from before their adoption. The Sims 2 Free Time introduces the parenting skill. Sims can read about parenting from a bookshelf to improve their parenting skill. Once the parenting skill is mastered, Sims can use a new check on baby interaction, which will show a thought bubble above the baby indicating their lowest need. After 72 hours, babies age up to the next life stage, toddler. Household members can throw a birthday party for the baby and help them blow out candles on a cake, which will trigger a special age-up cutscene. If there is no cake or party, another household member will autonomously pick up the baby and help them age up when it's time. In The Sims 3, there are a multitude of ways to have a baby, including pregnancy, alien abduction, adoption, wishing for a child at the wishing well, engineering a baby in The Sims 3 Into the Future, performing a cloning experiment in The Sims 3 University Life, or reincarnating a deceased Sim with the Door of Life and Death from The Sims 3 store. When using the default lifespan, pregnancy lasts for 72 hours, and pregnant Sims will experience pregnancy symptoms, such as morning sickness and back pain. Expecting parents may have wishes to read pregnancy books or for their baby to be a specific gender. Babies can be born at the hospital or at home. If born at home, the pregnant Sim will spin around and a baby will materialize in their arms, at which time the player names the baby. If the Sim is birthing multiple children, they will sit the first baby down after naming them and repeat this process. If the player chooses to give birth at a hospital, the pregnant Sim will travel to the hospital and rabbit hole the birthing process. Players can direct the father to go with them if they live together. If the father is not in the player's household, they may or may not show up. After the birthing process, Sims emerge from the hospital holding their baby or babies. If there's more babies than parents present, a basket will be used to transport the babies home. Babies have 2 traits, and depending on how the pregnancy went, players may be able to choose these traits. Getting massages while pregnant and reading pregnancy books may increase the player's chances of choosing both traits. The only genetic information from a baby's parents that we can see in this life stage is skin tone, as the same model is used for all babies, but as they age up, more family genetics appear. Male Sims who have been abducted by aliens may become pregnant with an alien child. Alien children born of this method, however, receive no genetic information from their birthing parents and are 100% alien. In The Sims 3 Supernatural, occult parents, such as vampires, werewolves, and fairies, will generally have children of their occult type, but they may also produce human children. Children of mixed occult types may be the same occult type of either parent, or a hybrid in some rare cases, and human Sims can produce occult children when trying for a baby with the Magic in the Air moodlet. Other than the obviously alien appearance of alien babies, occult babies don't generally show any outwardly signs of being non-human, as those signs usually manifest later in life. If a baby cries, nearby Sims will get a crying baby moodlet, but evil Sims will get a fiendishly delighted moodlet and can steal candy from babies to make them cry. Players can now play as the baby and view their needs for the first time, but babies cannot move on their own and need to be picked up or carried by other Sims. Babies also experience moodlets, but they don't have wishes and can't learn skills. Babies cannot be left alone and must be taken with the player Sim or have a babysitter when the player Sim is traveling. The game has measures in place to prevent the baby from being left alone, but it is still possible, and if this happens, a social worker will take the baby away. The social worker also comes if the baby's hunger need becomes critical, and depending on the circumstances, if a baby expires, the social worker or the Grim Reaper, or both might appear. Babies are born with a doll in their inventory, but they cannot play with this doll until they're a toddler. In The Sims 3 Generations, parents of newborn babies may also receive an imaginary friend doll from a distant relative. Again, this doll will be in the baby's inventory, and they cannot play with it until they become a toddler. Babies can be placed on the ground, and if placed in the snow, they can become difficult to locate. Players will probably want a crib for their baby, which can be found in buy mode. Babies age up to toddlers after 72 hours by default, at which time more objects become usable, like a potty chair and toys. The Sims Medieval is built on the Sims 3 engine, so babies in The Sims Medieval largely resemble babies in The Sims 3. Babies can be born via pregnancy and are born with their own crib, but they don't age up into toddlers and instead age up into children after 1 day. Bottles are not available in this game, so babies must be breastfed by their mother. The baby does not technically need to be taken care of. The social worker isn't going to take them away, and they aren't going to die, but the baby will cry if left alone, making it impossible for Sims to sleep or focus. Babies in The Sims 4 have a history of their own. The babies in the game today are not the same babies that were in the game at launch. At launch, the baby life stage lasted for 3 days on every lifespan. After 3 days, the baby would age up into a child. In 2017, toddlers were added to The Sims 4 as a life stage between baby and child. At this time, the baby life stage was changed to 1, 2, or 4 days, depending on the chosen lifespan. There are several ways for a Sim to have a baby, including pregnancy, adoption, playing with genetics in Create a Sim, and changing pregnancy settings in Create a Sim. In The Sims 4 Get to Work, male Sims who are abducted by aliens may become impregnated with an alien baby. When a Sim goes into labor, the player is given the choice to have the baby at home or at the hospital. If the baby is born at home, the pregnant Sim will hold their stomach before spin jumping a bassinet into existence. Players can also place an empty bassinet in buy mode and interact with it to give birth. When giving birth at a hospital, Sims will leave the active lot and go into a rabbit hole experience. In The Sims 4 Get to Work, the hospital becomes an active lot, and players can follow their Sims to the hospital for the birth of their children, where a doctor delivers the baby by placing the pregnant Sim inside of an operating machine. Until a recent patch, doctors would famously T-pose during the birthing process. Expecting fathers will often panic when their partner goes into labor. If the father is not a member of the player's household, they may panic upon arriving at the hospital and then leave. Sims 4 babies are objects bound to their bassinet. No additional furniture is necessary to care for a baby, and players cannot play as the baby or see the baby's needs. Players can feed and change the baby, as well as perform social interactions such as rock, talk to, and cuddle. Bassinets are provided for free and can be sold when the baby ages up. Vampire, spellcaster, and werewolf babies have special bassinets, and the player will know by the bassinet if the baby is one of these occult types or a human. Vampire babies also have V's floating above their heads when they sleep instead of Z's, and werewolf babies will howl when they cry. This time around, multiple models were used for babies, and which model was used appeared to be random, leading some babies to have a radically different skin tone than their parents. But aging up past the baby life stage revealed genetic traits such as skin tone and eye color. If a baby is left hungry, a notification will appear, warning the player that the baby will be taken away if not fed soon. But the social worker is gone, and continuing to ignore the baby's needs will result in them disappearing in a puff of smoke. This time, babies that are taken away from a family are deleted from the game entirely, except for in the family tree, where their portrait remains indefinitely but never ages. They are never adopted by another in-game family, and the player's Sim never sees them again. Toddlers and children can use the meet new sibling interaction if players direct them to the bassinet, but they may do this autonomously, after which they may become happy, or if they get the unwanted sibling moodlet, they may become angry or sad. In The Sims 4 Parenthood, Sims with a high parenting skill unlock the super efficient baby care interaction, which completely fills all of their baby's needs in one interaction. In March of 2023, the infant life stage was added to the game as a life stage between baby and toddler, and the baby life stage was renamed to newborn. Depending on if you're playing on short, normal, or long lifespan, the newborn life stage lasts for a half day, 1 day, or 4 days, and the infant's life stage lasts for 2.5 days, 5 days, and 20 days respectively. Along with this update also came a new way to have babies: science babies. This new feature allows Sims of any gender or relationship status to have children alone or with another Sim as a genetic donor. Having a science baby costs 1,200 simoleons and is a rabbit hole experience that skips the pregnancy process altogether. Players can also have twins or triplets when having a science baby. Changing a newborn, infant, or toddler's diaper after the March 2023 update generates dirty diapers. These diapers will appear on the floor next to the child, and the player or a Sim will need to dispose of them. The Sims 4 Growing Together introduces changing tables, which can be used for infants but not newborns, and have a trash bin slot for automatic diaper disposal. Newborns act very much like babies did, but their model was changed and now includes genetic information from the parents. Newborns also have new voice acting, replacing the old voice acting from babies. Newborns are still objects, but become playable when aged up to infants. In the base game, infants can be fully customized and create a Sim and given unique traits. They can interact with other Sims and several objects such as toys, and they can be placed in cribs and in high chairs. Infants will sit up and can scoot around on their knees. Infants can also cry, and this will make Sims around them uncomfortable. In The Sims 4 Growing Together, gameplay for infants is further expanded, including milestones, quirks, and skills. Infants now have to be taught to sit up and to scoot and to stand up and to crawl, and without learning these skills, they will be unable to move around independently. Infants can learn these skills by interacting with the new playmat or via tummy time. Infants can also try various flavors of baby food when placed in a high chair. Events like being born, first bubble bath, first visitor, sleeping through the night, and peeing on a caregiver are memorialized by the new milestones feature, and Sims continue to gain new milestones throughout the entirety of their life. Sims can also have babies in The Sims FreePlay. Babies are created by placing a crib in a house with 2 adult Sims and clicking on the baby icon above the cot. If successful, this action will cost simoleons, and the baby will appear in the cot after a day. The player may also choose to play through the pregnancy, which gives the player control over the baby's gender, clothing, and appearance. Players will need to tend to the baby's needs, and at level 10, adult Sims can carry babies, place them on the ground, teach them to talk, and teach them to walk. If their needs get too low, babies will cry and scream. They will also cry if they want to be held.